I want to personally thank Representative Crockett, President Trump said, a shark smile playing on his lips as he looked across the stage at a stunned Jasmine Crockett. Without her hateful, vicious, and frankly pathetic attacks on the Vance family, we never would have realized the need for the new White House initiative I am announcing tonight. The nation was angry. In the wake of Jasmine Crockett's disgusting, fabricated psychological report on the Vance children, a line had been crossed. The backlash was not partisan. It was human. Mothers, fathers, grandparents, from every walk of life and every political party were united in their revulsion. The attack, meant to isolate and cripple the vice president's family, had inadvertently made them the most sympathetic family in America. In the Oval Office, President Trump, J.D. Vance, and the communications team were looking at a deluge of data. Polling numbers showed a massive spike in public support for the Vances. Social media was flooded with messages of solidarity. Donations were pouring into children's charities in Usha Vance's name. She thought she was dropping a bomb, Trump said, looking at the numbers with a gleam in his eye. Instead, she lit a beacon. He turned to his vice president. JDD, this is a moment. The country is with you, not just our supporters. Everyone, we can let this moment fade, or we can seize it and turn her poison into medicine for the whole country. J.D. Vance looked at the messages of support, then thought of the conversation he'd had with his wife, Usha, the night before. They had read letters from ordinary families who had faced their own online smear campaigns, from parents whose children had been bullied because of local political disputes. Usha said it last night, Vance replied, his voice filled with a new sense of purpose. This isn't just about us anymore. Crockett is just a symptom of a larger disease, the disease of using families, especially children, as acceptable collateral damage in political warfare. Exactly, Trump boomed, slamming his hand on the resolute desk, not in anger, but with the force of an idea taking shape. So we don't just defend, we lead. We take this national conversation she accidentally started, and we own it. We're going to turn her attack into a massive win. The plan he laid out was audacious. It was a high-wire act of political theater, a trap laid in plain sight. They would announce a nationally televised town hall on American decency, to be held the very next evening. It would not be a rally. It would be a serious, moderated discussion about the erosion of civility and the protection of families in the public square. The headline guests would be Vice President J.D. Vance and his wife, Usha. And in a move of pure strategic genius, they would extend a formal invitation to Representative Jasmine Crockett to participate. The invitation put Crockett in an impossible position. If she declined, she would look like a coward, unwilling to defend her own actions. If she accepted, she would be walking onto a stage entirely controlled by her enemies. Her ego and her desperate need for relevance made the choice for her. She accepted, releasing a statement that she was bravely willing to speak truth to power, even in a hostile environment. The next evening, the atmosphere in the television studio was electric. The moderator was a respected, no-nonsense journalist, known for her fairness. The audience was a carefully selected group of undecided voters. Jasmine Crockett sat on one side of the stage, looking tense but defiant, armed with a binder of talking points. On the other side sat J.D. and Usha Vance. They looked calm, united, and radiated a quiet strength. The show began. The moderator turned first to Crockett. Representative, you have been accused of repeatedly targeting the vice president's family in ways many find unacceptable. How do you defend your tactics? Crockett launched into her prepared speech. This is about accountability. The powerful must be held to a higher standard. When I ask questions about the Vances, it is my duty as a public servant to shine a light on. The moderator interrupted. But your questions have included a forged document, racist insults, and a fabricated psychological report on their children. Are those legitimate tools of accountability? Crockett stammered. I was presenting information that was given to me. It's about the larger pattern. The moderator then turned to the Vances. Mr. Vice President, Mrs. Vance, how has this larger pattern affected your family? This was the moment the trap sprung. Instead of launching a counterattack on Crockett, J.D. Vance spoke with a calm, heartfelt sincerity. Thank you, he began. And while the attacks on my family have been painful, we're not here to talk about ourselves tonight. We are here because since our story became public, our office has been flooded with thousands of letters and emails. We want to share one. He pulled out a letter. This is from a school board member in Ohio, a good woman who voted to change a school lunch menu. A local political blog disagreed, so they published her home address and fabricated a story that her son was a bully. Her son, who is 10 years old, received death threats. He's now in therapy. Usha Vance then spoke, her voice clear and compassionate. This is from a Little League coach in Texas. He benched the son of a wealthy town councilman. The next day, a fake social media account was created in his name, filled with racist and hateful posts. He was fired. He lost his reputation. He almost lost his home. They continued, not talking about themselves, but reading the stories of ordinary Americans who had been victims of the same kind of vicious, personal slander that Crockett specialized in. With every story, Crockett shrank in her chair. The conversation was no longer about her accountability crusade against the Vances. It was about the real-world victims of her style of politics. She had been made irrelevant to the topic she herself had put on the national stage. Finally, after a dozen such stories, the moderator turned to J.D. Vance. Mr. Vice President, these stories are heartbreaking. What is the solution? The solution, Vance said, is that we, as a country, have to decide that this is not acceptable, that families are off limits, that decency is not a partisan issue. At that moment, from the front row of the audience, a figure stood up. It was President Donald Trump. He had slipped in, unannounced, during a commercial break. The cameras swiveled to him as he walked onto the stage. The audience gasped. I hope you don't mind if I join you, Trump said, shaking the moderator's hand. He walked over to the Vances, putting a supportive hand on both their shoulders. Before turning to face the cameras and a shell-shocked Jasmine Crockett. I've been listening backstage, Trump began, and I've been inspired by the courage of the Vance family and inspired by the stories of the Americans they just shared. He looked directly at Crockett. I want to personally thank Representative Crockett, he said, the words dripping with victorious irony. Without her hateful, vicious, and frankly, pathetic attacks on the Vance family, we never would have realized the need for the new White House initiative I am announcing tonight. He turned back to the audience. Effective immediately, we are launching the American Family Defense Fund. It will be a new private-public partnership, coordinated by the White House, to provide free legal support, emotional counseling, and public relations assistance to any American family, regardless of their politics, who find themselves the target of baseless, malicious, and politically motivated slander. We will fight for them. We will defend them. We will use the full force of our platform to protect them. The announcement was a masterstroke. The studio audience erupted into spontaneous, thunderous applause. "We are going to take the poison that people like Representative Crockett inject into our society," Trump declared over the roar, "and we are going to create an antidote. We are turning her attack into a massive, positive win for every family in this country." He looked at Crockett one last time, who sat frozen, humiliated, a relic of a style of politics he had just rendered obsolete. She had come to the town hall for a fight, but Trump and Vance hadn't fought her. They had simply risen above her, using her own hatred as the launchpad for a unifying, overwhelmingly popular national movement. Her attack hadn't just been defeated, it had been transformed into the foundation of her enemy's greatest triumph. In a brilliant move, Trump and Vance didn't just win the battle. They used the energy from the attack to win the entire war by launching a new, positive initiative. What was the most masterful part of this strategy that turned a vicious attack into a massive win? Share your thoughts below, and for more stories of ultimate political victory, subscribe to our channel.